Hello everyone, for those for the first time in my channel, my name is Zach the Russian. I'm 22 years old Russian who left Russia because of the war against Ukraine, and today we are going to discuss how possible is it to leave the Russian army if you are already in it. Leaving the ranks of the Russian armed forces ahead of time has always been difficult, and after the announcement of mobilization, it has become almost impossible. Military personnel rarely try to resolve such issues through the courts. But in 2023, the number of lawsuits for discharge from the service exceeded the number of claims for reinstatement for the first time in 5 years. Before the mobilization, the law on military duty and military service provided Russian military personnel with 9 legal grounds for voluntary resignation. After September 21, 2022, a military service member can only be discharged if they are deemed unfit for service, have reached the maximum age limit, or have been imprisoned for a criminal offense. In practice, military commanders often ignore the health conditions of servicemen, do not refer them to the military medical commissions, and overlook the maximum age limit. Some servicemen who disagree with this file complaints with the prosecutor's office or go to court. Before February 24, 2022, military personnel rarely went to court to seek discharge. Mostly, they used the courts to seek reinstatement. The war with Ukraine changed this trend. From 2019 to 2021, the number of lawsuits for discharge did not exceed 7%. In 2022, it began to grow and reached 11%. After the mobilization in 2023, the number of military personnel trying to discharge through the courts exceeded those seeking reinstatement for the first time in 5 years. The number of lawsuits for discharge accounted for more than 52%. Winning a discharge case in the garrison court is extremely difficult. In the 2.5 years of the war, only 9 Russians have succeeded. In 5 other cases, judges have ordered employers to take a closer look at the discharge reports. Whether it's worth contacting the military prosecutor's office and the courts to achieve discharge is a question that caused disagreements among lawyers, human rights activists, and the military personnel themselves. Trying to obtain a discharge through legal means on the front line can end with a ticket to an assault unit, says Artyom, a former prisoner who deserted from the army. Artyom says, "If you show off, your own people will take you out. I personally saw someone being beaten with a rifle butt and then shot point blank." What other methods do Russian military personnel resort to? Alexander, a former fighter from one of the Bashkir volunteer battalions, says, "If the leadership is accommodating, they might discharge you for breaching the terms of your contract. The procedure is tedious and long. This is practiced in some National Guard units, but not all." According to Alexander, in units that are not fighting on the front lines, there are chances to get discharged without ending up in prison or an assault unit. But for this, one must have good relationship with a commander. You can reach an agreement there. 3 late arrivals to service by more than an hour, 3 strict reprimands, and that's it. They convene an attestation commission, invite you, ask a couple of questions, and by the decision of the commission, they suggest the unit commander discharge you. Then, the commander decides whether to discharge you or not. That's how Alexander explained the procedure by which one can be discharged from a National Guard unit. He claims that he himself did not commit any infractions but convinced his company commander to fabricate violations on paper and was discharged under the pretext of loss of trust. Most Russian military personnel who wish to cease participating in combat operations are unable to discharge legally. Some choose to endure and wait for the war to end, while others desert. Since February 24, 2022, garrison corps have received 5,897 criminal cases for unauthorized absence from a unit and 249 criminal cases for desertion. I myself have a couple of acquaintances who want to leave the army, but they just can't. For example, one of my ex-classmates who is serving in National Guards or so-called Rosgvardia, he wants to leave the army so they wouldn't send him to Ukraine, but as he told me, the only way to do it right now is to commit some kind of felony so you will be fired from the army. And at some point, he was actually really thinking and doing his research. What kind of felony should he commit so he wouldn't go to jail, just pay the fine, and at the same time would be discharged from the army? Eventually, he decided not to do it for a couple of reasons, and he still stays in the army and just doesn't know the way how to leave. Another case actually happened to my really distant relative whom I never met in person. I don't even know his name. All I know that he was a young adult, 25, 26 years old, who signed a contract with the Russian army in 2021. Later, he was sent somewhere in Donetsk region to fight Ukrainians. One of the shells hit him in his leg, and he went back to the far east of Russia to get treatment. And after he recovered, he didn't want to go back, because basically it's a meat grinder. It's really hard to actually survive there as a soldier. So he refused to go, and he started to hide from the army. Eventually, couple of days later, somehow a special military police found him hiding in an apartment that he rented for cash, and eventually took him to the court and sentenced him to 5 years of jail for desertion. But yeah, it happens quite often, even to my family. Thank you for watching the video. As usually, it was me, Zach the Russian. There are links to Patreon and PayPal if you want to support the channel. Don't forget to support Ukraine, and see ya in the next videos. Bye.